Alright, hey everybody, it's me, Miss Moncrief, here to give you a review lesson on our forms of quadratics. We're going to look at converting between all of the forms, so in order to do that, let's take a quick review of what our forms are. We have our first one, which is going to be our what? Hopefully you're sitting there remembering one of them. It would be our standard form. So the standard form of a quadratic. Anybody remember the standard form of a quadratic? It is y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. And then we have the factored form. If I can spell factored right, there's an E there. Factored form. And it is y is equal to a times x plus m times x. Oh no. Just want to make sure you can read it. A times x plus m times x plus n. And then our last form, we have the vertex form. And it is y is equal to a times x minus h plus k. So let's look first at what our vertex form. Let's remember what all these tell us. Our vertex form obviously tells us what our vertex is. And remember, that's just the opposite of h, so I like to put negative h and k. So it's negative h and k. Then we have our standard form. What does it tell us? That's our y-intercept with a c. It's our y-intercept of 0, c. C is our y-intercept. So one at the very end. And then we have our factored form, tells us our zeros, roots, and solutions, which is x equals negative m and x equals negative m, because it's the opposite of whatever those signs are, or our x-intercepts, which would be negative m, 0, and negative n, 0. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at reviewing converting one of each. So let's start with this standard form. We are given this standard form of a quadratic, so let's go ahead and find that piece of information that we know we can get. What can we get from the standard form? We can get the y-intercept by figuring out what c is. Remember, a is the number in front of x squared, b is the number in front of x, and c is our constant at the end. So a is 2, b is 13, and c is 15. So that means my y-intercept is 0, 15. Alright, so now that we've found our standard form, we can easily convert it to our factored form, right? Yes, we can. So let's go ahead and convert it to our factored form. Since we're looking at the standard form of a quadratic, let's review a few things. First of all, is there a GCF between 2, 13, and 15? Well, no, there's not a number other than 1 that will evenly divide into all three of those numbers. So let's move on. Is this any of our special patterns? To know if it's a special pattern, we need to see if any of them are perfect square, or the first term and the last term are perfect squares. Is 2x squared a perfect square? No. Is 15 a perfect square? No. So we can just go ahead and do our snowflake. Alright, so we got a times c in the top, so that's 2 times 15, which is just 30. we got 13 in the bottom, and we got 2x on the side, and 2x on the side, because we do ax. So now let's see what numbers multiply to get us 30 and add to get us 13. We'll do that, sorry, that was an accident, by going to y equals, putting our number at the top, so 30 divided by x, and 30 divided by x plus x, and see where we get our bottom number. So where we see 13 in y2. Let's go find it. Obviously, error on 0. Go down to 13, and what two numbers do we get? 10 and 3. So that means two of my factors are 10 and 3. Now we got to see if either of those simplified. 2x and 10. Is there a number that goes in both 2x and 10? Yeah, 2. So what's 2x divided by 2? That's just x. And what's 10 divided by 2? Well, that's 5. And then we got 2x and 3. Are there numbers that can go into both 2x and 3? No, so we're good there. So that means our factor form is going to be x plus 5 and 2x plus 3. Alright, so we got our factored form. Now we want to find our zeros/roots. Well, that's when we set our factors from our factored form equal to 0. So we have x plus 5 is equal to 0, and 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. And we just solve for x. So when x plus 5 is equal to 0, what do I got to do to get x by itself? Subtract 5. So that means x is equal to negative 5. Now we have 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. First, we got to subtract the 3 to get x by itself. So 2x is equal to negative 3, and then divide by 2. So x is equal to negative 3 over 2. So my roots are x is equal to negative 5, and x is equal to negative 3 over 2. Alright, and that's the converting from standard to factored and getting all that information that we can from both. Alright, let's go look at a different one. There we go. I was nervous for a second. Alright, this time it gave us our factored form. So immediately, if we can have our factored form, we can just find our zeros and roots. So let's go ahead and find our zeros and roots. We have 2x plus 4 times 5x minus 10. So in order to find our zeros and roots from there, first thing, just separate them and set them equal to 0. So we have 2x plus 4 is equal to 0, and 5x minus 10 is equal to 0. And now I gotta just solve for x. So what's the first step in solving for x on 2x plus 4 is equal to 0? That would be subtracting 4. We have 2x is equal to negative 4. And now we gotta divide by 2. So x is equal to negative 2. And now we gotta do the same thing over here. We have 5x minus 10. What's the first step to getting x by itself? We gotta add 10 to both sides. So now we have 5x is equal to 10. Now we gotta divide by 5. So x is equal to 2. So that means my zeros and roots are x is equal to negative 2 and x is equal to 2. All right, and so we found our roots. Now, the quickest, the other form we can get from the factored form is just going to the standard form. And we can do that by doing our FOIL or generic rectangle. I'm just going to FOIL. So we have 2x plus 4 times 5x minus 10. So let's FOIL that. So what's 2x times 5x? Well, that's going to be 10x squared. What's 2x times negative 10? It's going to be negative 20x. What's 4 times 5x? Positive 20x. And what's 4 times negative 10? Well, that's going to be negative 40. So what are my like terms? Well, that's negative 20x and 20x. So that, and which ends up canceling out. So we're left with 10x squared minus 40. And since that is my standard form, we can get my y-intercept. Now, I know what you're thinking, Miss Moncrief. That now only has two terms, so which one's which? Well, what's the one? We have 10x squared, so that means 10 is A. Do we have an x at all? No. What happened with negative 20 and 20x? So that was really 0x, which is why it canceled. So that means B is 0 and C is going to be negative 40, or constant. So my y-intercept is going to be 0, comma, negative 40. And that's all we get. Alright, and so now let's go to the let's go to look at one last one before I set you off to do your own practice. We want to convert each from the vertex form to the standard form. Find the vertex and find the y-intercept. So now we have 3 times x minus 7 squared plus 5. That is obviously our vertex form. So remember, the vertex form will easily get us the vertex. And we do that by taking the opposite of this number in the middle. So it's the opposite of negative 7. That would just be positive 7. And then the number added on at the end. So 5, the opposite of h and k. All right. And so now we want to go from our vertex form to our standard form. Well, the first thing we got to do there is FOIL this x minus 7 squared. So we really have 3 times x minus 7 times x minus 7 plus 5. So what we could do is we could go ahead and distribute that 3 into one side of the parentheses. So what's 3 times x? 3x. And what's 3 times negative 7? Negative 21. So now we have 3x minus 21 times x minus 7 plus 5. Oops. All right, and now we got to distribute everything into this next one. So that'd be more like foiling. So what's 3x times x? 3x squared. What's 3x times negative 7? Negative 21x. Negative 21 times x, negative 21x. 21x. And negative 21 times negative 7. Well, it's definitely going to be positive. So let's see. Gotta get out of here. So negative 21 times negative 7 will get me positive 147. And then we have that plus 5 on the end. So let's see. Do we have any like terms? Yep. We have negative 21 and negative 21. So we'll bring that back up here, which means we have negative 21 plus negative 21, which is negative 42. So we have 3x squared minus 42x plus 147 plus 5. So what is 147 plus 5? And that'll get us 152. So we have 3x squared minus 42x plus 152. And that's my standard form. 3x squared minus 42x plus 152. And since we have their standard form, can we find our y-intercept? Yeah, it'll just be C. So A is 3, B is negative 42, and C is at 152. So we have 0, comma, 152. And that's all she wrote. So what I did here, because this wasn't like a normal lesson where we have a practice, or we have examples and then we move into practice, I did one of each practice from the section. One practice from each section. So now you can go back and do the rest of them. If you have any other questions, you can contact your teacher. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. But yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day.